We invented the category of full service real estate company. We made the rules on how to be that, and we remain the leader in that way of doing business today. I wondered one day how many agents in my region doubled their business last year, and it turned out to be about 1,000. 1,000 people doubled their business. Most of them came close to tripling. If they doubled, they just about tripled. So there was a lot of breakthroughs happening. So I started asking anybody who would listen to please go find those agents and ask them how they did it, and then ask them how it changed their life. And what I'm getting from them, and these videos are starting to come in, how they did it, there is so much genius going on around this company.
Welcome to In the Blue Zone, the real estate marketing podcast where difference makers and influencers from around Coldwell Banker discuss how to enjoy success, find inspiration, earn more money, and have fun building a business.
Welcome to another episode of In the Blue Zone with your hosts, Jeff Gagan, Betsy Steck, and Madison Purvey. We have a real exciting interview this week. Guys, do you know Greg Rand? Have you met him before? You know who he is?
I've never met him. I did watch him on the national sales meeting, which he was great at, but never met him before.
First for me too, other than the sales meeting, like you said.
Yeah, Greg Rand is our Executive Vice President of the Midwest region, and he'll probably talk a little bit more about what that entails. He's a newer executive with our company, but has a long history with real estate. I'm looking forward to hearing some more of that from him as well. And I know he did a side venture or a career venture into tech and came back. So we're glad he's with us, and really want to focus on the national sales meeting, like you mentioned, and let him kind of tear apart and give a little more detail on some of his thinking behind that. So let's just get right to the interview and let's let Greg talk about it. All right, we're on with Greg Rand. Greg, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about, yourself. We have that format of something old, something new, something barred, and something blue. Something old, could be in quotes, air quotes, right? So what are something old that you want to share with us to help us get to know you?
Sure. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that I grew up in the business, right? And my mom was mom making us tuna sandwiches, and then one day she was a realtor, and she's running around with this gold jacket on, talking about listings, and we don't know what any of that stuff means because we're little kids. But then one day she shows up in the driveway with a big silver Cadillac, and we're like, whatever those listings are, something's going right around here, because she's driving that car. But I tagged along with her. My brothers and I all did. And I have early memories of, like, one in particular of being in the office. She's making copies or something, and I'm just sitting there waiting. And some lady was crying. And I say lady, she was probably 26 years old, right? She was crying in the conference room. I see that. I get unsettled by that. Kids don't see adults crying very often. So I was like, Mom, there's a lady crying in the conference room. And she's like, oh, she just bought a house today. Don't worry about her. She's fine. And my thought was, does she not like the house? Like, I don't understand. What's the problem? Is it broken? But she explained, and she always used to explain. She explained that, she's happy, but she's just emotionally, I forget the exact words, but she's on tilt emotionally, right? She's moving, scary. It's a big deal. Her childhood ended today. She has a mortgage now. But I got this understanding of, like, even though there's like trophies on the walls and there's balloons everywhere, open house balloons, like, this is a light industry. She used to come back with trophies. She went to sales rallies. It was a light, fun industry, but it was actually a pretty heavy job. What goes on in that office is heavy stuff. And so my introduction into this industry came built in with a massive amount of respect for what real estate agents do, because of those kinds of experiences. And there was a lot of them, and I won't bore you with more of them, but there's a lot of those little experiences of her taking calls from an agent who's crying because the customer's yelling at him, like that. So that's what's old for me, is that I came back around. I've been in the business in a number of different capacities. When this opportunity came my way, the timing was perfect. And having done a number of different things in my career, I realized how special this industry actually is. When you get in Coldwell Banker Realty 50,000 people that put themselves in a situation where their altruism is about that emotional strain the customer is in my opinion. Like the reason why agents get hooked on this is they're there at this pivotal moment in a person's life. It's usually happy and aspirational. Sometimes it's sad, but it's always serious. They're handing the keys over or they're whatever. Why do they migrate to this business? Some emotional rush that they get or some satisfaction they get from being there at that moment is what makes this industry so resilient. It's why my first day in the business, people were talking about disruptors taking us out. 34 years later, we still dominate. And that's, I think, the reason.
Great.
That's great. I think that there's some element of addiction to this on the part of the agent where they just, they, even though, I remember having settlements that were brutal and then you're thinking like, I'm not doing this that night and you're drinking a beer or whatever. And then the next morning you're right back at it again. Like, it's like, you just you can't get enough, even when you have, and then the good ones just wipe out all the bad ones for 6 months, and you're just excited. And then you have a bad one, and you do the circle again.
Right. And to add to that, the reason why you love it and I love it is because our pleasure comes from helping agents that are absorbing all that stress, that are dealing with that. We're the one, they're operating without a net, except that there is a net and it's us, right? They're not on salary. I mean, are they crazy to go into this business and be, it's a crazy business. It attracts a person that is very, very driven by, I think, the things we're talking about and the sky's the limit entrepreneurship and everything else. But what drives me, and I think you and so much of us in different roles of support in the company, is what they do is important. We have to make sure we have their backs.
I love that concept of like they're out there without a safety net, and we're kind of the safety net. They're like this tightrope walker, right? They're taking all the risks, and they don't have to feel like they're in it alone. There's support around them. I love that. I love that.
And sometimes I picture like us holding the net and like running around, making sure.
That's exactly what I was picturing just now when you were
Really?
saying that.
Yeah, and it's a good description of how I feel in supporting agents. I know that they're out there on the front lines getting it done, and we're just behind the scenes. It's cliche, right? But trying to help them live exceptional lives, trying to help grease the wheels for them and make it easier for them.
And when they do, and you had some measure of contribution to that, it makes you feel awesome. Yeah.
How did you pivot to leadership?
In this role, I mean, I ended up joining my mom's real estate company. She went from agent to manager to broker owner. And I actually worked here in Realogy back when it was called HFS back in the 90s, because when technology collided with all industries, it was very interesting how it collided with real estate, because we're a people business, but we're also a data business. And the information, the data is what the customers want first. And when the industry was wrestling with the idea of giving the public access to the MLS, that was not a foregone conclusion. Although it was eventually going to go public access, the question was whether we were going to still be in it. Because if we resisted as an industry, we were going to be in trouble, and we didn't resist. And people, I think, were surprised at how quickly the industry said, the listings are what the customers call for, but what they actually need is us. So we're willing to give the listings up because we have confidence. And a lot of other people didn't. Back in the 90s, there was a lot of people saying, we're going the way of travel agents. That was the cliched line. But the industry said, we're not going the way of travel agents. Like, this is not booking a flight online. Okay. This is much more serious. And we had the confidence to give up the MLS. I worked here as my title was technology evangelist. That was actually a title in the 90s when technology was new. And that sounded cool, but I went out and did half-day seminars for real estate agents within the Century 21 brand on technology when it was totally brand new. Then after a few years of that, that was really cool. That took over mom's company with my brothers and ran that for 12 years. And we grew it pretty prolifically. And then I went and started a business outside of traditional residential. It was a technology and acquisition platform for investors in the housing market, small, medium, and super large, to identify markets and properties around the country and buy them in high velocity. Sold that business in 2019, and I was working for that company, and it was cool. But then I get a call. And what I realized from being away from the business is that I was now starved for that stuff we've been talking about the emotional charge that you get from being in this. I was in technology and Wall Street. I had one boot in each camp, and those all sound really cool, but they're not that cool. They're not as cool as this. They don't have the heart, the salt of the earth vibe that this industry has. And so when the chance to come back here, and especially an EVP job is like a great gig. So I'd never been a corporate guy, so I didn't know. I literally told Gorman, I don't know if I'm going to fit in. Like I might be too impatient. I don't know. And he said, we want impatient. So I said, just write that down and sign it because when I do become annoying to everybody, I need to hold that up. But it's a dream situation. I mean, I love this company. I've always had massive respect for it. When we competed with it, I always had a massive respect for the company, the brand, and the people, the longevity. How many people here? 20 years plus? It's crazy.
Sure.
So for something new, I think we all want to hear about the energy behind your national sales meeting that you just did recently with the whole company, kind of unprecedented. That you had all the agents' ears in theory for an hour, and you had to share something of your vision for the company for the year and for the agents' personal visions, and you were going to give them energy. And how did you decide on the themes that you decided? You only had a couple, 2 or 3 themes, and you stayed on topic the whole hour. So, what were the things about what's today? The Dream campaign is obviously the big impetus behind that came out in March with the Coldwell Banker. We had David Marine on earlier episode going into detail about the theory behind why they did that. So take us into your mind as far as why this campaign is so important to make a national sales meeting out of it.
Yeah, well, it was a brilliant campaign. It's been a very interesting couple of years, right? And the sociological observations you can make about the way people respond under stress. We've had this massive stress test in the country, in the world. And the idea that it compelled people, fear makes Americans think about what's important in life and dial it into focus, right? Like this idea that people are saying life could be shorter than we expect. We need to live our dreams now. That combined with remote work has created a migration acceleration, new migration patterns, and the acceleration of migration driven by people dreaming, right? And then you guys come out with a dream campaign. Like I've been watching that with fascination. Like COVID hits, and 3 months later, you can't get a fire pit. Try to buy an ATV, right? Before there was a supply chain shortage, there was nothing on the shelves. Go try to buy I tried to buy a hot tub, 18 months, right? So like that's an indicator that when people in this country get shaken up, when the distractions melt away, and all of a sudden you're actually focused on what's important in life, the people, the life you want to live, how you want to live, where you want to live comes up pretty quick. And this migration pattern, being the biggest real estate company in the country, being in all the relevant places, and if not us, Coldwell Banker affiliates are, right? Being a trusted brand in all those places at the moment in time when people are starting to say, we've been talking about moving to blank all these years, and we figured we had to wait till we retired to do it. But now I go remote, we can do it now. And this is a conversation happening in households all across the land out there. And then, I'm talking about the campaign. You won't be able to see it, but I get goosebumps when I think about it because I say, you guys are more to marketing. You nailed the emotional connection to each one of those different places the Dream campaign shows, whether it's an A-frame house in the woods. My reaction every time I watch the commercial is I want to go live in the woods. A second later, actually, I want to go live in a penthouse and hang out at cool rooftop parties. Actually, I want to live on the mountainside, right? And I think that everybody has had every one of those daydreams and they migrate towards one or the other, but then all of a sudden you're getting permission to dream. And here comes a company who says, not only do you have permission, you might actually have the money to do it. Let's unlock your listing. And then you go. So it's genius from the standpoint of how it taps into this moment in time what people are feeling. And just captures this momentum that's happening right now. It plays into one of our biggest strengths, which is what we are incredibly solid everywhere that's relevant. And then it ends with a call to action that causes us to have a listing opportunity. Like, are you kidding me? Like usually great marketing will stop right there. It's a piece of art. It makes people feel something and it's good. But this thing ends with you need to list your house so you can realize your dream. And we're the ones that can help you do that. So what we did was it reveal that to agents in context of what I just talked about. And then I wanted to share with them how to use this thought pattern of, are you an origin market or are you a destination market? Or are you both? And most people are both. Like I had a conversation with an agent in Chicago, right? They're a destination for people who were downtown who wanted to get out of the city. Then they became an origin for people who wanted to go to Naples or go back to downtown. It winds up being you have both inbound and outbound. Sometimes it's heavier one way or the other. But if you're an origin agent, people are thinking about leaving your area, run the dream campaign on social media. Like run it until it wears out. Like start the conversation. Where are you dreaming about? Right? Where are you dreaming about? Watch this commercial. Tell me where you're dreaming about. Have people vote. What do you think is the best? I think the beach. I think the mountains. Just trying to give them the advice to use the assets that you guys created to insert themselves into these conversations that are happening in the households, get those conversations out in the open, in the social media comments, engage with people. And I know that there are people who are doing this, and we're going to start hearing success stories of people that are like, I ran that ad a few times on a few platforms. I sparked a conversation. I had one that had 72 different comments, and 4 of them were people who were like, not only do I think moving to the beach is the right idea, but we're going to do it this summer. Boom, listing opportunity, right? And by the way, because you guys are in field marketing, how many real estate agents know they need to do something on social media, but they can't get themselves started because they can't figure out what to do. They have no passion behind it. This is a way to do something cool, interesting, fun, engaging, and pry people out of their comfort zone in terms of their dream. And the flip side is if you're a destination market, just start making video and content or writing or whatever about your market, the quality of life. Like if a restaurant opened, show up. Don't go on camera if you don't want to. Just point at the dining room in the bar and say, check out the sweet new restaurant. And here's the menu. I'm going to test it out. I'll tell you how I like it. I'm getting the salmon. Come back an hour later, say the salmon was awesome. Restaurateur owes you. And somebody in Chicagoland who's watching content about Southwest Florida is now seeing this restaurant and recognizing you as a value-added person because you're documenting and revealing the quality of life benefits of living there. Origin agent, destination agent, make friends so you can break listings loose and you can send people down and have that continuity handoff to another high-quality agent in the destination. So that was the idea.
One thing that's interesting is that for years, we've noticed that there's agents, we're in the Philly, Central Pennsylvania region, but it's all over the country, that there's another market tied to our market. Like we have 2 markets tied to our market. We have the shore, which is like the Ocean City, Maryland, and Delaware, Dewey Beach area, shore to the Philly metro area, very connected. Then you've got the Florida connection, and all over Florida, Punta Gorda, Jacksonville, Fort Myers. We have agents that own properties or they live down there part of the year, and there's a lot of cross licensing. I've seen a huge acceleration in that this year. About at least 6 or 7 agents have posted on Facebook they bought a home in Florida this year in our company, and they're not Airbnb-ing it.
Right.
And it's like that, that's all tied to what you've been talking about. I mean, this acceleration of, I don't want to live in PA my whole life. I want to go, and maybe it's to Texas, maybe it's over in somewhere on the Panhandle or wherever those connected markets are.
Yep.
Like it's happening all over, I think, and we're just seeing it in our corner. But I bet everybody who's listening can think of a market tied to their market and is probably more energy than ever. And this is agents we're talking about, right? If the agents are doing it, how about all the consumers out there that are doing it?
So you're exactly right. Everybody knows somebody, and if it's not them, they're jealous of the people that are making that dream come true. And that's the concept: is that if you know that it's down to that coast of Florida, and it's over to Ocean City, what I advise them to do is go search for Coldwell Banker agents that are already active at creating content about the destination. And if you're an agent who isn't active, get active. Like start today. Somebody tonight might go on and start searching for an agent, a Coldwell Banker agent in Ocean City. Maybe today would be a good day for you to take a walk to the beach and show what it looks like in March. Here's April 1st on the beach in Ocean City. It's starting to look beautiful again. It encourages agents to use social media for a purpose. If you're whatever destination or not, if your social media strategy as an agent is to document the quality of life, which means the street fair and the restaurant opening, and they're planning a new multifamily complex on this lot. So you take a picture of the rendering, take a picture of the lot, give them an update. It was on the planning board agenda last night. It got approved, should be breaking ground. Here's the housing stats for the month. I gave them a bunch of ideas of content devices, things that are recurring themes that you can create new content around. One of my favorites, by the way, is features of a house. I think agents miss an opportunity when they do one post on a listing and they show the whole thing. Take a pause and show that butcher block island that everybody who walks in the house goes ooh and ah when they see it. That's a post all by itself. The coolest 4 features of a listing are 4 different posts, right? So it's not hard if you get used to just whipping this thing out and starting to film whatever you're looking at and document and comment on it. And so one of my best favorite messages that I'm landing these days is don't go on camera. If that's what's got you freaked out, that's what's holding you up, don't go on camera. Just point the camera. They don't want to see you anyway. Really. You ever see a video of a house and the first 30 seconds is the agent saying, hey, I'm Greg, and I'm going to show you my listing. It's like swipe. If the first thing is the house and I'm already in by 30 seconds and I'm looking at the butcher block, now everybody's winning, So that's my mission, is to get agents excited about doing things that they know they need to do, but they haven't gotten excited about it yet. This just was all the pieces were just waiting to be put together for that sales meeting to have people see. Now you've got this. I don't even know what it cost you guys to make that ad, right? But it was an expensive piece of art that they now can put into work as a way to do this campaign and have a good time this spring, becoming relevant on social media.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I do love most about you. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with like everything that's great about this campaign and the emotions of it and having those tools out there. But I also think the fact that there's so many resources. Like Madison and I were looking at, there's like almost 100 resources on BrandServe and Prospect Square all over the place that agents can use to post on social media. So those assets are already created for them, and it links to a national campaign that they're already seeing and their consumers are already seeing. And that you don't see that very often. You don't see those national campaigns that break down into individual posts that agents can use today and tomorrow and next week.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't see call to action, direct response marketing that makes you feel that way.
Right.
And you don't see things that make you feel that way that actually are also effective as direct response. I mean, it's a wacky combination of the best of both of those. That what I really want to do is use the sales muscle behind the marketing campaign, right? So mobilize the national army of Coldwell Banker agents to go out and do this, some proportion of them to do this. So millions upon millions of additional people see that commercial, and some section of those millions of people are actually in this moment in their life where they're thinking about making the change. And their first reaction is, these guys get it. Like I know 9 realtors. This is the one I'm going to work with because they are speaking directly to me here.
Yeah, I mean, your passion for it, I can tell you're passionate about this whole campaign, but it's true. What I was thinking about is, and we had talked to David Marine about this too, is really identifying that this was a trend, in the past 2 years of people, they have the ability to go to where they have always wanted to go to now because, remote jobs and whatnot. But the way that Coldwell Banker and the marketing team in general was able to identify that and then turn that into something that benefits the agents in a storytelling, emotional kind of way is really just so impressive. And like Betsy said, with all the assets we have that we can provide to them, and I mean, this campaign really is it's new and it's I'm sorry, I can't think of the word, but
I would add to that and say it's here to stay. Like this is like a lot of our campaigns, not our campaigns, but a lot of campaigns in general, marketing campaigns have a shelf life, and at some point they're just not cool anymore. They run their course, whatever. But we're looking at. I mean, they're saying 18 to 36 months of this market at least. As far as the challenge, the velocity market you're seeing, and the more that agents can expand their horizons, think beyond their local zip codes, and really get into that, put that on, adopt that into their business, it's going to continue to, this campaign's not going to get old anytime soon, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's unique about it, that it's basically a future look for us as a company.
And what also is kind of cool is that people talk about how real estate is a series of local markets. Whenever you try to say we're the number 1 real estate company in America, inevitably somebody will tell me, well, people care about local market share. Truth is, they care about local market share because the number 1 local company is telling them that's what's important. Number 1 in the world means something, right? This plays into that strength. We don't have competitors that have the same real estate company. They may have the same flag they fly. Franchise brands are everywhere in the business, but it isn't the same thing. we just had a national sales meeting for a brokerage company that were all under the same entity, and there's a more close knit relationship between members of the same brokerage than there are usually members of the same brand, that are separately owned and operated. So, yeah, I think it is permanent, and I think we're going to make sure that people realize that there is a national real estate market. When people are moving around the country, living in two different places, this shrunk the country to be exactly the size that we've always known it is, which is coast to coast.
That's a good way to put it. It really is, because and then we're the big dogs in that space as a company,
Yep.
and it really points up our strength. So one last thing I wanted to cover on that was the idea of the census data, right?
Right.
And putting some numbers behind a lot of this dream talk, a lot of this, aspirational stuff. And so how did you get to that place where you wanted to actually feature this map and this website on the national sales meeting of all the other things you could have talked about, right? How is that something that you felt and maybe continue to feel is super important for agents to dig into?
Well, yeah, what you're talking about is a U.S. Census data visualization map that's free on the web, that you can click on a county or enter a county, and it will show you the places that people are coming from, in what kind of numbers, and the places people are going to. And so, as you mentioned, you were able to, off the top of your head, say that, Ocean City, Maryland, and the Southwest Florida, and maybe the Panhandle. But I challenged agents to come up with 10 markets that feed them as origins and the destination, and 10 places where they're the origin and they have outbound flow going. And I figured that they can name 5. You can just name 4 off the top of your head. You can name 5, but a little bit of research reveals the other 5. Right. And it always happens that way. You play around with the sliders on that map and you find the sweet spot where the markets that you expect are all heated up on the map, but then you loosen it up a little bit, and all of a sudden some things you didn't realize, like people from Boston are moving to Houston, Texas. Our friend from Boston who was on the webinar meeting, he didn't know that. Right. So the tool revealed it. The reason I chose is that it fits in. And I've been using things like that in my background as a national investment advisor for those Wall Street firms. Our specialization was all around this concept that where you invest is the first consideration. What you invest in is secondary, especially as an investor. You're not even going to live there. So the houses themselves are just the coinage, the currency of the positions you're taking in this market are the houses, but the market is what you're investing in. It's kind of the same thing here, right? And so I wanted to show them a tool that's free online, and maybe they'll use it to identify those top 10, then do that research to find the Facebook friends and the Instagram friends that are in those markets that are creating content that you can then share. Like, I want an agent in your market to share content about the Panhandle of Florida with their sphere of influence in the origin market that they've been softening up with the Dream Campaign, and have somebody say, you know what? Yeah, I want to talk to you. What's my house worth? And can I meet your friend down in the Panhandle?
Yeah, and the CB refer, which is that tile on the desk for those who know it, is a great place to start for finding people too that are engaged. Cool. So now let's talk about something borrowed. I'm actually looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this. This is things that you glean from others that who feeds Greg Rand, right? Who are the ones that you follow, that you listen to, things you're reading, podcasts, people, whatever. I'm curious to hear.
Sure.
So we'll put those in the show notes, any references that you have.
Okay. Well, there's a book that I've now listened to for the 3rd time in the last 5 years called Play Bigger. Play Bigger is going to wind up, it's a book that'll wind up being a classic. And it's a great listen. I don't read anymore. I kind of figured out that it takes me all year to read a book, but I can consume one like that in audio form. I also like to think that the emperors and kings of old used to have people read the book to them, so I'm sort of following in that tradition by having the book read to me. It's a spectacular piece of literature there, and it talks about I can't really relay what it talks about well, but it talks about being a category king as a company, identifying what you are best at, establishing the category, naming the category, making the rules for the category. And when I was an entrepreneur in a small business, we used it really well because we had pioneered something in that investment space. And so we developed the category of large scale single family investing, and you try to make the rules for it and make the competition play by your rules. when I came here, I listened to it again now in the context of Coldwell Banker, because we are in competition now with different business models than ever before. All right. We've got real estate companies that say, okay, agent, you can have all the split, but you're on your own. Don't ask for any support of any kind. And you've got, hey, customer, you don't need a real estate agent at all. Just sell your house to the cloud, to Open Door, OfferPad, or whoever. You don't even need a real estate company. And we're the full service, high hands-on, agents that have a lot of support. So the agent value proposition is, it's worth giving a little bit away on the split to actually have all the things that we do here to support you. And of course, customers, you want to trade your house into the cloud, you're insane. You should definitely let the market speak and get some support. It's worth a little bit of extra energy. Play Bigger helped me to dial in my understanding of Coldwell Banker as the longest standing, high integrity, traditional brokerage. And traditional is often a bad word. Oh no, it's got to be innovative. Well, the innovation around how we execute on the business model that I think is the right one. I think the business model of very service oriented is what customers really need in this trying time of moving. And we exemplify that category. We invented the category of full service real estate company. We made the rules on how to be that, and we remain the leader in that way of doing business today. And Play Bigger was just another way of me thinking about it, and defining that in my own head. So that's a good one. Something else that I'm getting a lot of energy out of the people in my region and inside this company. I've been doing what you're doing here. I've been talking to people on camera, asking, like, for example, I wondered one day how many agents in my region doubled their business last year. And it turned out to be about 1,000 people doubled their business. And I don't mean they went from $5,000 to $10,000. We had a limit on what you had to start with, but people that were making $60,000, now they're making 180, they were making 100, they're making 210. Most of them came close to tripling. If they doubled, they just about tripled. So there was a lot of breakthroughs happening. So I started asking anybody who would listen to please go find those agents and ask them how they did it, and then ask them how it changed their life. And what I'm getting from them, and these videos are starting to come in, how they did it, there is so much genius going on around this company. People that are like, I did one last week. The agents, oh man, I'm going to forget his name. I'm bad with names under pressure, so I apologize. But he bought rental properties in Austin, and he has all these inbound customers that are freaking out because they have to find a house and they keep losing bidding wars. He goes, hey, chill out. I've got somewhere for you to stay. Rent this for me for 4 months.
Love it.
And then you take your time. Then you're in control. You're going to lose some bidding wars. You'll eventually get one. And then you make the move. Like, I never heard that before.
Yeah.
It's genius. And by the way, the houses are getting valuable by the minute, more valuable by the minute. But I'm finding there are so many stars among us. There are so many smart, interesting people that are doing interesting things, innovating within the context of the traditional business, but doing really cool, innovative things. And I'm getting a huge amount of energy for that because I don't have to work that hard. I can go out and just flip the Zoom camera on and say, tell me how you did it. And just magic flows out of people. So I'm getting a ton of motivation out of that.
You get to share it with your manager team and your president team, and it's like it just kind of goes around the circle. It's perfect.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. So something blue, like you've been kind of covering that the whole last 45 minutes, but any particular blue thoughts to close with here?
You know what?
I'm sorry. Well, or maybe also why you joined Coldwell Banker as well. Maybe any kind of Coldwell Banker.
It's interesting. So Alex Perillo, the CEO of Coldwell Banker back in the 90s, became a mentor of mine over time. So I always had a view of Coldwell Banker as a competitor, very respectable name. I liked the people that worked in that real estate company when I competed with them. So it was always, it was always a good relationship. Then Budge Husky came in as the CEO of the brand. I had gotten to know Bruce Ziff a little bit, and then Ryan Gorman. Like, I like the people in the company. And I think that the people that have been on top of the company for the last 30 years have shaped a lot of people's perception of the brand. People with, smart people with a lot of integrity that really do understand the business at the street level really well. So that's the first thing I thought of as something blue, is that, I mean, gosh, half the presidents in my region have been here for 25 years. You know what I mean? Or more. Like, it's an amazing longevity. And I've never been part of something that had that kind of history to it. But the reason why I joined the company was that I had a light case of COVID a year and a half ago. Light, but I had one night where I had a fever. And, if you know me, what that means is I'm laying in bed. It's all over. I'm going to burn up in a ball of flames. Like, that was what I was thinking. I just didn't sleep that night. Temperature's going up. And I did this thing where I did the slow slideshow my whole life. I just was thinking about, I'm talking second grade teacher, little league coach, first kiss, all the way through first job, married, college, married, kids, career. And I spent a good between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. I spent most of that hour thinking about the time that I was in the traditional business with my brothers and people that became such great friends of mine, taking mom's real estate company and growing it. And I realized I came, anyway, I had that experience. The next day I get a call from a recruiter who I know, who says there's a job in Coldwell Banker maybe you want to look at. And I said, I want to look at it. Yes. It was this serendipitous moment where I just realized for a different set of reasons that, and by the way, my fever was gone and I was, obviously fine and ended up fine, but it happened literally the next day. And I had just gotten clear on the fact that I had more fun and I was a better fit for this industry than anything I did before or since. When he told me it was called Banker, my head spun out of control um, because I just always, I never had a chance to work in this brand, but I always thought it was the best one.
No such thing as coincidences.
Right.
That's cool. Well, this has been great, Greg. We really appreciate your time and sharing some of your energy. And so, if someone wanted to get a hold of you and talk more about this, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you know what? The YouTube channel is actually the one that I'm starting to put a lot of this stuff on, and I'm trying to remember what the heck I called it. Just search for me on YouTube.
We'll find you.
I'm going to
We'll
put the
it in
sales
show
meeting
notes.
on there. The sales meeting will go on there. Follow me on the social. My email address is greg.rand@cbhome.com. So email me, but I'm around. And what I want to try to do, and I haven't done a good enough job of this, is that I get so much video content coming out of my ears here, and I have to get it organized and begin to circulate it. So if there's anybody out there that watches this that happened to see that sales meeting, or maybe you put the link to the sales meeting in the body of this somewhere so they can go check it out in long form, and they start doing the stuff that we're talking about, and they can share their success stories, or tell us what they tried that didn't work. Let's make that post on YouTube a place rich with comments that we could all sort of do it together and find each other across the country and trade customers.
I love it. Sounds great.
That's awesome.
Greg, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Same here.
All right, guys, and we will see you next week in the Blue Zone.
What a great episode with Greg. He really had a really fresh point of view. I think that we haven't really heard a point of view like that in any of our episodes yet, so it was great to hear that.
Yeah, loved his energy too. You can't beat that. He's just the natural that way. I think that one of the things I really loved was talking about something that's unique to Coldwell Banker, in that we have that gigantic sales force that's connected better than it is in where you have segmented franchises. We have the big brand, but the big brokerage, but then you also CB1. We fold the franchise into that, and so we can mobilize a sales force around this national campaign, and that's his dream. And I think that's great. And I think putting it in the hands, when marketing and sales works together that way, that's really what our job is about too. So I think that was great. And I think that I love the idea of having those tools in agents' hands, those posts in agents' hands, so they can capitalize on it. You invest so much time and money into creating this really creative and emotional campaign that's designed to literally move sellers. And then you hand that off to your sales force and say, use it. And I think that's just captures something that the real estate market hasn't captured before. No real estate company has captured before.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that any agent who is listening to this, I think that what the main takeaway should be is to really utilize these awesome seller campaigns that are coming to you, and take the advice that Greg had said, promoting your origin destination, or, and working with other agents in destinations that your clients are going to. I think that that's such an important lesson, and I'm so glad that he went into so much detail talking about that.
Yeah, we'll have to make sure we link to the, what's it called, Jeff? The flow meter?
Yep, the census will have that link in the show notes, as well as the other references that Greg threw out there during the interview. So yeah, it's been great. Enjoy Greg, enjoy all of our leadership, by the way. Coldwell Banker, has this kind of energy, and it's really great to highlight one person in all of them. So it's been a good interview, and I hope you enjoyed it as a listener, and we will bring back another episode shortly to In the Blue Zone. Thanks, everybody. And don't forget to subscribe or leave a comment.